Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I'd like to begin just with a few expressions of gratitude. First, starting off by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the blessing of having the privilege of being able to gather here today in order to remember His name, learn about His deen, and seek His good pleasure. Next, I'd like to thank all of you in the studio audience and those of you joining us online for taking the time and effort to attend today's lecture. I'd also like to thank the volunteers and administrators of Al-Mawrid Institute Canada for organizing today's event and many other similar events which enrich our community with educational content about the Deen of Allah and relevant issues for Muslims today. And finally, of course, I'd like to thank today's special guest speaker, Dr. Zulfiqar Ali Shah, who came all the way from Michigan to join us today and enlighten us with today's lecture. The lecture is entitled Islamic Unitarianism and the American Revolution. A few words about Dr. Zulfiqar Ali Shah. He is a well-respected scholar and academic in North America. He is the Executive Director of the Fiqh Council of North America and the Director of Religious Affairs at the Islamic Association of Greater Detroit. He is a Hafiz of the Quran who studied Usulul Deen and Comparative Religion in Islamabad and completed his PhD in Theology and Religious Studies at the University of Wales. He is a theologian and historian who seamlessly navigates both the Islamic tradition and contemporary knowledge, and we should get a taste of that in today's lectures, which will highlight all of the contributions that he's made to the community. I would ask Dr. Zulfiqar Ali Shah to come to the stage and begin his lecture.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Jazakallah khair, Brother Sean, for this introduction, and it's honor to be in the company of my old friend, Dr. MashaAllah. Now everybody will call him Dr. Khalid Zahir, but for me, he is Brother Khalid Zahir, who was a senior companion during all of our adventures at the University of Wales. You can call him Senior Culprit. So Alhamdulillah, what I will be talking about is the sort of product of that companionship, that relationship, especially with my supervisor, Professor Paul Badham. As you know, I have done my bachelor and then master's from the International Islamic University. And the International Islamic University was a mixture of traditional as well as modern contemporary knowledge. They brought the professors and the teachers from Al-Azhar University, but also the graduates or professors from Oxford, Cambridge, SOAS, Temple University. So Dr. Anis Ahmad, for example, was the student of Alama, and I will call him, really the martyr, Ismail Faruqi, and then Zafar Ishaq Ansari and rest of the people from McGill, Dr. Hassan Shafi, Hussain Hamid Hassan, Ahmed al-Assal, they got their PhDs from SOAS, for example. Not Hussain Hamid Hassan, he studied here in New York, but Dr. Hassan and Ahmed al-Assal. So it was a mixture of tradition and the contemporary knowledge. So when I went to the university there, I thought that I know everything of Islam, because going from International Islamic University and not expecting the Christian professors to know much about Islam. While studying Christianity, I was also thinking that I know more than them. But I was challenged, and Khalid will know that Paul Badham was a known authority in Christianity. His father was the chaplain to the Queen of England. So whatever position he would take, it will become official. So he was very cautious about what he would allow in the thesis and what he will not allow. I remember at the end of, my dissertation and almost 7 years of back and forth fight, after I received the PhD degree, he invited me for dinner. And he told me, he said, what you are talking about, Islam's reformation of Christianity, is basically internal. Because what you say came from Islam, I found out that it was from the 17th century. People like John Locke, Isaac Newton, they had become Unitarian. So this reformation was internal and not external. But then he also said that he advised me to stop by at Bodleian Library and see, because there is so much material there in Arabic, which he cannot understand. So now here, I will start and talk about the book, because from that time on, it took me almost 30 years to connect those dots. So this book, Islam and English Enlightenment, The Untold Story, is the result of those 30 to 35 years of journey. I will not make it very academic. I will make it very simple and something which can be digested by everybody. As you know, that in the medieval time, no Christian country was even equal to the Muslim world. Everybody knows we talk about dark ages. The Muslim empire, from the Umayyad to the Abbasid, and later on to Mamluk, and then the Ottoman, they were so dominant that the Christian world never thought of challenging them. So here, my story will begin, because the modern civilization started with what we call the British Raj, British colonial empire. And I would say that the French Revolution, American Revolution, came after the English Enlightenment or English Raj, because France was influenced by that, and America was basically British colonies. And the British Empire, actually, the foundations started in the 17th century. And they got to the peak among, in the middle of the 18th century. And for a century, they ruled the world. So this is where what they call whole modern civilization comes. So if you look into the 16th or 17th century England, you would see that England was a small island with a population of 3 million, and it went to 5 million at the end of 17th century. Just one city in the Mughal Empire, Agra, had 2 million people. And the Mughal Empire at that time was so rich that the 25% of world GDP came only from the Mughal Empire. That's where, when the Queen of England, as you know, the fight started between the Protestant and between the Catholics. Entire continent was Catholic, and the English people started, Henry VIII started Protestantism, or a different Anglican church. So the Catholics, they called them heretics or murtad. They have left the church, so nobody was allowed to work with them, marry them, or give them job. Now, this small island with 3 million or 5 million people, without having much relationship on the continent. So at that time, she sent a secret embassy to Sultan Murad in Istanbul, that we are boycotted because we are not idolatrous like the Pope. We don't worship the statues. We don't worship the saints. We don't worship the Pope. Actually, we are more Muslims than Christians. allow my people to work because we are financially suffering. At that time, the Ottomans were fighting with the Catholic, Spain and the Habsburg. So Sultan thought it's a good way to divide the Christians and basically allow them to come and work. So he allowed them, gave them the visas. It's called capitulation in 1580. Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Welcome. Alaikum salam. So in 1580, the English merchants and English people were allowed to go and work in the Ottoman Empire. So this is where they started what they call first the Turkey Company, and then they call it Levant Company, where English will take their money, buy the stuff from there and bring it back. Then in 1600, when they saw the opulence of the Muslim world, they sent the same kind of embassy requesting from basically the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan. When they went and saw Agra, so beautiful, they came back, and this is the first time in 1588 actually the word Mughal entered the English lexicon. Even right now, somebody who is filthy rich is called Mughal of the town. Such and such person is the media Mughal. He is the Mughal of what? Wall Street. So actually they started calling themselves White Mughal because they were making money in the Mughal Empire, started putting on shalwar kameez, speaking Urdu like we speak English right now. So their perfection in Persian, in Arabic and Urdu became the sign that they are educated. Now, I'm going to make it very simple. When these Christians, the English went and worked over there, back home in England, because Christianity believed that there are three persons in Godhead, God the Father, God the Holy Spirit, and God the Son. So they believe that everything in this world is Trinitarian, three. So human beings are created by God into three classes: nobles, clergy or priest, and common people. So royals, king is considered like God, God the Father. Nobility is like God the Son. Clergy is like God the Holy Spirit. So clergy, royals, and the nobles, they are superior, created by God to rule that 98% commoners. These commoners were considered to be created by God to serve these three superior classes. I mean, just go look at the word three realms of state. You would see it in 17th century, even 18th century England, three realms of state. These are three realms different. Clergy, they are superior, and the common people were not allowed to basically even walk on the path where the clergy or the nobles are walking. If a noble comes, they were supposed to give them the way. They have to take off their hat to salute them. They cannot look into their eyes until they say, "You can look into my face." So this type of situation, and then the king was considered as the divine right king, that God appoints him. He is not responsible to any human being. He makes the law, he breaks the law. Same thing happens with the church. The church speaks on behalf of God. Nobody has got the right to ask the question. You don't understand Trinity, you have to just believe. You cannot. And if anybody will ask any question, this is what is called, they have become murtad, heretic, they doubt Iman. So they were punished, and that's what it was called, religious persecution. You must have heard the name of inquisitions, Spanish inquisitions, all of those kind of inquisitions. Then the king charged 33% of their income. And the church charged 10% of their income. So as soon as you receive something, 40% is gone automatically. When these people went and started working in Agra, or in Istanbul, they saw that the Sultan does not charge 33%. What is required of every individual Muslim is to pay 2.5% of zakat, and they can pay it to anybody from their family. Masjid does not charge 10%. Sultan and everybody else is not considered superior nation, people. Everybody is equal. Sultan comes to the masjid on Jummah or on 5 daily prayers. He just comes like anybody else. Now, because they were there and Muslims started talking to them about religion and those kind of stuff, and they said, but God created us like this, king is superior, nobles are superior. They were told, no, inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. All of them are created equal by God. So they went back and they say, we have become Muhammadan Christian. We believe in Jesus, but not as God. We don't think there are 3 gods. Everybody is equal because there is one God. Actually, it suited them because they wanted to have equality. Now they have made more money, they had more cash than even the king himself. The nobles, because it is just like somebody comes and works in America, does business, you go back and the landlord will not have that much cash. Am I clear? So now these people want to behave like they are equal, and those nobles and the king does not want them to be treated like equal. So from where, this is where the whole conflict starts. We are Muhammadan Christian. So when they say we are Muhammadan Christian, the fatwa came from the church, from the king, that they have actually become the Turkish spies or the Mughal spies, because they are putting on the Turkish turban. As right now we put on the kaf, tie and all of that. So when you go, ulama over there say they have become what? American. So at that time, they are putting on the turban and then those kind of clothes, and their women are putting on hijab. So they say, see, they have become Turkish spies. This is where this whole problem starts. Now these people, they are making money and they are building such kind of houses. So many of the Arabic Urdu words got incorporated into English. Even the word bungalow, your bangla, shawl, khaki. Sometimes if you look at the 17th century, almost 33% of English words have got either Arabic, Persian, Turkish, Urdu, or even Punjabi origins. I don't want to give you some kind of nonsensical examples, but one time I'm sitting in the Bardeen library and I'm looking at a 17th century pamphlet in which there are 2-3 words used, and I am going through every dictionary to find out what is the meaning. I couldn't find. When I went to the original meanings, it was the type of curses, गालियां जिसको कहते हैं ना, पंजाबी में देते हैं, that was. And I said, oh my God, how did this come into English? And this is where I came to know that when these English went to India and they are drinking and they are womanizing, so they started calling them Ma Falana or Behan Fulana. And that became a big word in English language. So I was just looking at why Newton and John Locke and all of them are using these words. I said, oh, subhanallah, this is some. So now I will give you examples. Many of them are, how do I change the, where is Brother Shah? How do I change the, okay, slides? So it's not going.
नीचे सबसे नीचे
दिखाई दे एक सेकंड
नीचे डॉक्टर साहब क्या बताएंगे कितनी तादाद थी जो लोग मुगलों को दुराई और आक्रमण में आए थे कोई
Basically ये समझिए कि उस जमाने के जितने एजुकेटेड पैसे वाले थे वो सारे उधर आ गए थे.
You can use
I mean,
these
in
arrows.
hundreds or in thousands?
Thousands.
You can use these arrows.
जी.
Okay.
अच्छा, this one? Okay.
Yeah, yes.
The same status as we are here.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, just look at, what I said. This is the concept of God, Trinity. And then everything is triune. This is what they believed. And even human being, body, soul, and spirit, three. Father is the soul, Jesus. Basically, I have talked to you that everything in this world was kind of interpreted as Trinitarian. There were animals of the land, animal of the sea, animal of the air, men of labor, men of prayer, men of, power. Even the human body, there were three kinds of blood. One is the blood which comes from the head, which is whitish. The other comes from the heart. And the third comes from the liver. So everything was what? Trinitarian. Now look at this picture. In the 17th century England, this is the body of human being. So you see the white blood comes from brain, especially red from the heart, and then from the liver is the brownish one. This is what is very famous before the, what they call the French Revolution. This is the pyramid. You see over there at the top crown, which is like the God over everybody. Then you've got clergy on the right side. My right, actually your right and my left. And then you've got nobility. And then everybody else is down there in their feet, created to serve them. This is another very famous picture that common people are what? Being abused by the clergy and by the nobles. So one vote, like the whole clergy, which is less than 2%, one vote equal to one, and one vote for the nobles, and 98% are equal to what? This one person. These are the pictures of, if anybody says I don't pay the tax, or I don't believe that there are three kinds of what human beings, this is what is burned alive. Millions of people. It is just like right now, you call anybody murtad in Pakistan, they will stone you to death. This is exactly what was happening there. So somebody will say, this person has become murtad, they will burn the fire, and they will what? So, as I just mentioned, that England had 5 million at the end of 1700, while the Mughal Empire has 150 million population in 1608. Okay, and I mentioned it. Now, when they went, now here is, at that time, King James was the king of England, and this is, you can see it in Delhi, and you can see it also in the British Museum, this painting. This is the painting. Shah Jahan is sitting on his throne. The king of Persia is sitting closer to his chest, because considered kind of equal. The other kings, Afghanistan and that, basically that is kind of close, sitting to it. And King James is portrayed in his feet. King James of England, because it was considered that he is what? His place is in the feet of who? Okay. Now, I will not go into the details of this one. Now, what happens that these people, now when they are working there, they have to speak their language. They are doing business. They have to learn these things. So they started learning Urdu, Persian, and mostly Arabic, because Arabic could be used in the Mughal Empire, could be used in the Ottoman Empire, and could be used everywhere. Now, Cambridge was the first university to establish the Arabic chair in 1632. Here I'm going to summarize it for you. When these people went and they saw so much gold, so much money, so much, basically, they thought that these Muslims know how to turn bronze and silver into gold, because there's so much gold. And these people started asking people, and they said, alchemy, chemia, because they were doing a lot of alchemy. So they brought secret books to the king that if we can establish a lab here in England, we can become very rich like the Mughals and like the Ottomans. So the king secretly started doing this kind of alchemy in his palace. And then he sent scholars from here to go and buy those books. Now, those books were in Arabic, Al-Khayyam, Tusi. That's where he sent some of the scholars to go and study Arabic so that they can understand those alchemical process. This is the beginning of Arabic language. And then he established the first chair of Arabic in Cambridge in 1632 and in Oxford 1634. Oxford and Cambridge were seminaries, madrasas. They were teaching only Bible and the Bible tafsir. There was no secular subject in Oxford or chemistry, in Cambridge. So the first non-Christian subject which were introduced, it's the Department of Arabic. And then the Gresham College started, and then there was private tutoring taking place. Now here is, how can I change this? I think, yeah. Okay, move it up. Okay. You can look at the letter. In 1630s, the king wrote this letter to all returning English merchants that you will not be allowed to dock in London unless you bring one Muslim manuscript. And this is what he called knowledge text. Look at what he says, that we do not have the knowledge here, and the Muslim world has got so much knowledge, so we need to bring those books. And before that, the Quran has come, so many other books, but he says, now enough of Quran, enough of the tafsir. Now I want them to bring the books in various sciences. Now, these people are working in Istanbul, Levant Company, East India Company, and many of these young people are becoming Muslim. So at that time, the king decided that we need to send chaplains to preserve the faith of these people, because they are coming back and saying, Muhammadan Christians, we don't believe in Trinity, such and such. So he sends the best of the English scholars over there to Aleppo, to Istanbul, to be the chaplains for these people. So some of these big names, like John Locke, Isaac Newton, their teachers went and studied in Istanbul and Aleppo. When they came, they taught them at Cambridge and in Oxford. Here is the first chair of Arabic department in Oxford. His name is Edward Pocock. I'm going to summarize for you most of the stuff which I want to say. So they started teaching the Arabic in every private school. And then at Oxford and Cambridge also. So Westminster is the private school where king's children, it started teaching Arabic language to the elementary school students. John Locke, Isaac Newton's teacher, Henry Stubb, Robert Boyle, all of them learned Arabic in their elementary school. And when they went to Oxford, here Edward Pocock is teaching them, and they are required to take Arabic 3 days a week. So, and then king sent him to go and purchase those manuscripts and bring them. So these chaplains who are being sent, they go, they buy those manuscripts, they give it to the king's office. And this is the Bodleian Library in Oxford, which was established specially to put those manuscripts in. Okay. This is your Cambridge Library, and these are those rare books, because they are brought, they are placed over there, they are translated, And from there, these professors are teaching. I'm going to make it simple. Isaac Newton's teacher, his name is Isaac Barrow. He goes and lives in Izmir and studies mathematics and calculus in Istanbul. When he comes, he brings the books of Tusi with him and teaches Isaac Newton from that. The Vice Chancellor of Cambridge University, his name is John Cowell. He is close to King. King sends him, he lives in the British, what they call company, 9.5 years. Brings those books of mathematics, astronomy, all of them. And when he returns, King appoints him the Vice Chancellor of Cambridge University. And at that time, Isaac Newton is a student. So look at now, if you go to Bodleian Library, there is a full section, thousands of these manuscripts. So it will show you the person who purchased, like this one is from John Grievous. And it will tell you the date. You see over there? And where it was. And here, I really want you to understand, look at the year. It is written in Roman, like CCCXLI, see? At that time, there are no numerals in England. They are using what? The Roman numerals, because they do not even know how to, other than 100 and 1,000, they could not even figure out the infinite numbers. And you will see that all of that came from the Muslim world. Okay, so now you see different kinds of signatures, dates, city where it was purchased. Now you see, this is the way they are translating it on the side. This is John Cowell, this is, Isaac Barrow, this is all of these hundreds of thousands of what? Those who went and learned Arabic, now they are translating it. You see over there on the side, Latin and English translations, even the Quran and Tafsir. So now they are bringing the books of, astronomy, alchemy. Now this is medical books. Now you will be astonished that Ibn Sina, Al-Farabi, Al-Khwarizmi, they have been taught in Oxford till the 18th century. Their medical school, their main curriculum was based upon the Muslims from Qanun at-Tib of Ibn Sina, Razis, Al-Khwarizmi, Ibn Nafis, Ibn Yunus, all of them I'll show you. So now even when it comes to the birds and how they are used in different kinds of medicine, all of these books are brought, and you see over there the translation beneath it. You can go and find them by yourself in the Bodleian Library over there. Now, Kalila Wadamna, everybody knows. Even literature started from the Muslims. Now, Euclides, as you know, was the first one among the Greeks who talked about these mathematical computations and all of that. Now, their Latin books were last Muslims translated into Arabic. So from Arabic, it was translated into Latin. There was no mathematical, sophisticated mathematics in England before this book was translated in what, 1630s. And I will show you all of those. So even when it comes to these kind of calendar and jadwal and ilm al-handasa, you will see most of it basically translated. And then about the medication, all of these herbs, what are the characteristics of different plants, how to change them into different, jisko hum nuskha kehte hain na. This is the beginning of medical school there. This is the Hakim sitting, and the fish is what? So all of that is the book of what? Medicine. Even how to extract tooth. This is the tooth surgery, which is being taught to the student first time from the books of Muslims. And even, there's no sister here, the gynecology is taught by using Muslim books, how to deliver a baby. England, half of the population used to die during the pregnancy. Then you've got these maps of the world. Where is mountain? Where is river? Where this river goes to the ocean? And these are the maps which are translated into Latin and English. And you will be astonished that the person who came to America, he used the map of Muhammad al-Idrisi, which was translated to him by John Grievous. His name is Raleigh. So look at basically ocean and then all of those kind of details. This is where these are translated. And now I will take you. Now, this is the map of the world which was made by Muhammad al-Idrisi in the 10th and 11th century. It shows you, you see over there in the middle, the Mediterranean Sea, and then you've got all of the oceans of the world. This is the map which was used by these English. Now here, when these books are translated, when Arabic is taught, now they start what? Teaching mathematics, algebra, geometry, astronomy. And imagine, Arabic department was opened in 1632, and the first mathematics department was opened in 1663. And even the Department of Chemistry in Oxford was opened in 1693, 60 years after Arabic department. And it was so rudimentary that you will be laughing when they talk about chemistry over there. Now I want you to read, this is the book of John Wallis. John Wallis is considered the founder of mathematics, algebra, and geometry in England. His name is so big. He is the teacher of Isaac Newton. He is the teacher of John Locke. He is the teacher of Robert Boyle. He was teaching mathematics in Oxford when all of them are students. And he wrote a book, a treatise of algebra, both historical and practical, and published it in 1685 in London. Now, this is what I'm giving you the summary, you can read it. He says that we did not have mathematics in England. The first mathematics which was given to us is by these Arabs. These Arabs, they took it from the Greeks, they translated it, and we got it from them. Our numerals were basically Romans, and X, L, M, they used to be so big that just to count 1,000, you have to fill the whole page. When these people went, they introduced the Arabic numerals. And those numerals were basically invented by the Buddhists in what we call right now Harappa and actually Texela. From Texela, this zero and these numerals went to Baghdad, and from Baghdad, they were brought to England and Europe. So this is what he says. Look at, this is John Wallis, and look what he is saying. As I just mentioned, he was their teacher. Now, this is what he says. After that Greek mathematician, this learning was pursued by Arabic authors, but little known in Europe for a long time. From them, it had the name of algebra. Even the word algebra comes from where? From the Muslims. From Geber, Javed. whom they conjecture without any good ground that I know of to have been its first inventor. The European thought that algebra came from Jabir or Jabr, but he says no, it came from the Arabic word al-Jabr wal Muqabala. Am I clear? Okay. Even the name. With the Arab, all sorts of mathematical learning flourished and was improved for a long time together, while in Europe it was very much neglected. Amongst whom were Mamun, as you know, Mamun, the son of Harun al-Rashid, Mu'in, Al-Kindus, their names are what in Latin? Abu Munsar, okay, Al-Farghinani, Al-Farabi, Al-Farabius, Jabir, Muhammad Baghdadi, Muhammad bin Musa, Thabit, and then Al-Hazin. As you know, all of them are Latinized name. He says that they are the one to whom I may also add some Persians and Tatars, As-Sufi, Nasiruddin At-Tusi, Ulugh Beg. Basically, he says, we got it from them, these Muslims. From these Arabians, we had the names of Al-Magist, Azimuth, Al-Makantar, Zenith, Nadir, Al-Manek, even algorithm. Right now, computer is based upon what? Algorithm. He says that we got even the algorithm from whom? Algebra. And then he says all of these things, we got it in the shape of manuscripts and even astrolabe, because all of these navigational is based upon that compass which was invented by Muslims. Now, this is the teacher of what? Isaac Newton. This is what he's saying. And you can go on the internet and look at that, and you can find, just put his name and look for the book, and you can right now find it in rare books. It is present. And then he says that basically even astronomy, every kind of science, we took it from the Muslims, because Euclid, Ptolemy, Aristotle, all of them, because the Christian church called them pagan, and they said we do not need any philosophy, any Greek, we just need to have the Bible. It is just like in our madrasas, they say we don't need to see any science, technology. The Quran is sufficient for us. Memorize Quran, read it, and Allah will take care of it. It's just like what Europe was going through the Dark Ages. Right now, we are going through our Dark Ages. So this is exactly what was happening at that time. And he says that these sciences were preserved by the Muslims. They expanded upon it. And from them in Spain, we got it in 1100s. So philosophy, astronomy, chemistry, science, everything, we got it from home, from these Muslims. So basically, they said that why we were tired of the church teaching. So at that time, our scholars decided to learn Arabic, and they started Arabic teaching as rivalry to Christian church. Now he mentions all of these names, those who learned, and then he mentions all of the names from England who went and studied. And then basically what he says is that from those people, math, science, philosophy, astronomy, geometry, mathematics, all of them came to England. Now, he talks about even what we call the numerals. He says that we had such a long numerals, and when Muslims introduced these Indian Arabic numerals, this is the first time we went into infinity. Because the word zero, because right now, 1, then 0. You put 200, 3,000. So this 0 made infinite number of what? Possibility. And even right now, the computer language is based upon what? And the original word is what? Cipher. Even the English original word is what? Cipher. So, Urdu, Punjabi, Arabic, everything is what? Cipher. Okay. Now I'm going to go, we have talked about algorithm, what the masters of Europe, he says. Without them, we could have not have the science, technology, anything. And then here I mentioned all of these. In 1660, the king established the Royal Society to read those books, to do the experiments, and Isaac Newton, his teacher, all of them, they will pick up the books. Those others will translate. It says this much mercury, this much such and such. They will do the experiments and they will start writing on the side. If you push this much mercury, this is what happens. And this is what became the chemistry. And actually, in the Royal Society, because their Arabic was very weak, so they requested 3 Muslim ambassadors. Because when they started working, there were Muslim ambassadors, and the ambassador from Morocco, Tripoli, Aljazair, they were the first members of what? The Royal Society. They will translate, they will explain, and you see their pictures and these, in the Royal Society even right now. I want you to look at this book. Now, you would see that everything which is done in England in the 17th century, even how to build churches, they were built like masjids. Now, St. Paul Cathedral is a famous cathedral in London. Its architect, his name is Christopher Wren. He is the student of what? At Oxford, when these professors are teaching. When the king told him build the biggest cathedral, when he built it, he was accused that he built a masjid. Because the dome was like the Dome of the Rock, and inside everything is mihrab. Am I clear? So basically, if you go to Paris, Notre Dame, even the cathedral, Washington Cathedral, is built like a masjid, even facing towards Qibla. Read this book, Diana Dark actually, and she has got a number of videos on YouTube. You can look, and she basically traces Notre Dame, all of these, how they used Muslim architect. So actually, when Sir Christopher Wren was accused of building a masjid, he said the problem is that what we call Gothic is nothing but a Muslim architect. What can I do? So basically, you can look at those videos and you can see that most of these churches and even some of these universities in America, you would see that those domes are built following the Dome of the Rock. Even the Capitol building, look at that and look at the Dome of the Rock. What they have added, they have just added pillars into it. Okay, here is the big thing, as you know, this Big Ben in London. This is the monument of London. I was there a few weeks ago when my book was launched at the British Parliament. So from inside, I went and I spent several hours looking at it. And I have seen Diana Dark, and she said that basically they copied the minaret from Masjid of Seville in Spain. And this is, you see over there, in the 11th century, this was Masjid of Seville, like Masjid Qurtuba. But when the Christians occupied, they changed it into cathedral. So this is called Seville Cathedral. You see over there? And because Spain was the biggest empire before London became, so this was the symbol of Spanish power. When London became something, they built like that now the power has come to London rather than Spain. Am I clear? So Diana Dark says that this is the exact copy of that minaret. Just look back at right now. The Big Ben in London, and look at this minaret, and you will see that it is a copy of that. Anyhow, now so many people became Muslim. Islam, Prophet Muhammad, Quran, it was the most discussed word in the 17th century England. Not only England, but entire Europe. The Muslims had influenced the British identity to the extent that now the scholars are coming and saying British had no identity of themselves. They looked at the Mughal, they looked at the Ottoman, and they started imitating them because they wanted to be like them. There's a book called White Mughals. You can read, this is the British historian. Just go on the internet and look at White Mughals. And he says that anything which will come from the East, it is just like coming from America. Now, in back home, everything is what? American. This is the way in England, everything was what? Muslim, Ottoman influence. Martin Pugh is the famous historian, and he says, just in a small city of Aljazair, there were 200,000 Christians who converted to Islam. Because this was their first trip from London, they will make a stop to what is nowadays Tunis and Aljazair, and from there they will go through, say for example, Cairo and the other area. As soon as they will land, they will become number one because they wanted to be part of, as a now, many Muslims are running to Europe to get what? Citizenship. At that time, to be part of the Ottoman Empire or to be part of the Mughal Empire was considered America. So they wanted to get citizens. This is the only thing is that you become Muslim and you are granted. So they will just go and accept Islam. And every month he says that 500 to 1,000 people will become as soon as they will land. Now their historian in 1576 and 1635, especially Baron Wenceslas, he says that in Turkey, the converted Christians are so numerous that they regulate the whole dominion of the Turkish Empire. In army, in academia, in military, there were so many whites that the other one says, William Davis, he said that there were more white Turks who have accepted Islam than the original Turks. And this is John Cowan. He was allowed to witness the circumcision ceremony of the Sultan's son. And he says on that day, so many Christians accepted Islam in one day, which he says that we have not been able to convert so many Muslims in 200 years. And he is the Vice Chancellor of the Cambridge University who taught Isaac Newton science. His name is John Cowan. So now I am going to give you some more examples. Look at Henry Stopp. He wrote a book in 1674, an account of rise and progress of Mohammedanism and a vindication of him and his religion from the calumnies of Christian. He is the class fellow of John Locke. He is the class fellow of Isaac Newton's teacher. He studied Arabic language with Edward Pocock, and he became a Muslim. He wrote this book and he started saying, we need to bring Islam here in England. Islam is the solution. Islam is the power. There's another person, John Toland. Now these names, Henry Stopp, John Locke, they are considered the fathers of modernity. Am I clear? Now, John Toland wrote this book that basically Christianity, the original Christianity of Jesus was preserved by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because Jesus was a muwahid. He did not believe in these kings and these churches. So the original Christianity is Islam. So that's where he coined the word Muhammadan Christianity, that we don't need kings Christianity, churches, we want Muhammadan Christianity. John Locke wrote the reasonableness of Christianity, in which he said, Christianity is like Islam, as in Islam, only one thing is required, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. The true Christianity is that you just say there's no God but one God, and Jesus is the prophet of God. It's the Messiah. That's Christianity. And he read Hayy bin Yaqzan, one of the novels of Ibn Tufail, which was translated. So he incorporated that into his famous writing. And he started saying that in England, anybody says, I don't believe in Trinity, I don't believe in the king, you kill them. Among the Muslims, all the Christian and the Jews, they worship their own God, they've got their own churches. Muslims have got Sunni, Shias, they've got Malikis, Hanafis, and nobody is killed. Why can't we just allow everybody to worship the way they want to? And he said, church should not come into state, as Sultan is Muslim, but he does not force the Christian and the Jews to become Muslim. So this is where the whole concept of church and state, and Isaac Newton, he, like them, became a Unitarian. John Locke, Henry Stump, most of these people, they started calling themselves Muwahideen because when they were persecuted, and then they started calling themselves Unitarian. So Isaac Newton and all of them, and actually Isaac Newton said that Prophet Muhammad was sent by God to reform Christianity. He was a genuine prophet. But he said, don't publish it until I die because they will burn me alive. So when he died, these things are now published, and you have to go in his handwriting. So, and he called Christianity the biggest adulterous religion, the biggest curse to humanity. Isaac Newton said it. Now, from there, when they were persecuted, now I'm coming to America, and I'll make it very simple. When they were persecuted there, these Unitarians, they left and they came to America. Remember, it was America was British colony. So they are called Puritans. So they came, first they established the Unitarian Church in Quincy, Boston. And then the second wave came to Philadelphia. Among them is Joseph Priestley. He established the first Unitarian Church in Philadelphia, and most of what we call the founding fathers of America, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, they started attending that church and became Unitarian. Now here I want to talk a little bit about how America came into existence. As you know, America in 1779 were just small colonies of England. Ottoman Empire, Mughal Empire, they were the powers of that time. British was just becoming power. And most of the money which British were getting were from India. British Empire was not made in England, it was made in India. So therefore, their entire focus was upon India, and all of these colonies were secondary to them. So when they became power, they defeated France in 7-year war. That's where the French king started talking to the Ottoman Sultan that these thieves, they used to call them thieves. The thieves of yesterday, now they are challenging us. The British made a secret deal with Ukraine. Ukraine used to be part of the Ottoman Empire. Most of the Russian states were part of the Ottoman Empire. And British supplied them secret weapons to demand independence. Am I clear? So the King of England said that let's backstab them as they backstabbed us. And this is a person who is very important in this discussion. His name is Charles Gravier. He was the French ambassador to the Ottoman Empire for 15 years. Now this is, and later on King appointed him as the foreign minister of France. He is the one who supported America, and America came into being. Look at, he is the French foreign minister. Now, there are cities after cities in his name. Vergennes, Vermont and those kind of stuff. Look at him. He was French ambassador to the Turkish Empire for 15 years. This is his picture. He used to have turban. And actually he got married with one of the Christian ladies from Istanbul. And I'll show you. Yeah, this is his wife. And the king deposed him, saying that our officials cannot marry a foreign lady because you can give secret of the government. Basically, he deposed him. He came back and he talked to the king and said, why I got married? Because she had the access to the family of Sultan. I can have the access to Sultan through her. So king appointed him as the foreign minister. So he was the secret go-between. Am I clear? So now what happens? This guy and the French king, because Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and John Adams, they were working in Paris. Am I clear? So they told them, we will support you if you go against the British. So they started what they call the War for Independence here in America. They did not have money, they did not have weapon, so everything was given to them by France. And this guy, the foreign minister, was made in charge. Every penny came through him. He had the dealing with the Ottomans and with the others. So Ottomans were very quiet, but inside they were supporting. And they also had the discussion with Sultan Hyder Ali of Mysore. Because India was the place where Britain were taking all of the money from. So they talked to Sultan Hyder Ali, the father of Sultan Tipu, and told them that drain them here. So the Anglo-Mysore Wars started taking place. So now the British do not want to lose Indian power, so they sent all of the ships there. Am I clear? Here the Americans started. Now those ships were supposed to come and defeat them because they could defeat them in one day. But Nawab Hyder Ali kept them busy in the Bay of Bengal. The Ottomans kept them busy in the Red Sea, Saudi Arabia, Egypt and those areas. And the French and the Ottomans kept them busy in the Mediterranean. They could not come, and the French Navy came, helped these rebels, American rebels, and finally those British soldiers who were dying out of hunger and thirst because there was not much food, they surrendered and they allowed what? America. Nobody knows it. So some of the historians, American historians, have said that the last war of American independence was not fought here in Virginia or Washington. It was fought in India. Because if Nawab Mysore would have allowed those, ships, they would have defeated them in one day. Am I clear? So that's where Thomas Jefferson, the third president of America and among the founding fathers of America, he used to say, every man has got two countries, his own and France. Because without France, there would have been no America. Okay, now let's talk about now some of these. Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, these founding fathers, they were among those Unitarians who became very much influenced by Islamic Unitarianism. So he was a very, I would say, enthusiastic reader of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's Misaq-e Medina and the other kinds of contract or covenant which he made with non-Muslims. And he also studied Ottoman Empire so much. He is considered the student of Sultan Sulaiman al-Kanuni. And I'll show you what I mean. So Thomas Jefferson bought the Quran when he was in France, and he started studying the Quran. Now, this is his original Quran, It is in the Smithsonian Museum there in Washington. You know this famous picture when Keith Ellison, the first Muslim congressman, when he was elected, and they required him that you have to take the oath upon the Bible. He said, I want to take it upon the Quran. And they said, you are living in America and not in the Islamic world. It is un-American to take the oath upon Quran. He went and he picked up this copy of Thomas Jefferson. He said, this is the copy of the founding father of America. This is the most American thing to take the oath upon. So from that time on, now every congressman and woman, Muslim, takes it upon this Quran and not upon the Bible. Rashida Tlaib, Bilal Umar. So that's where it is very famous. Now, in 1786, Thomas Jefferson wrote, millions of innocent men, women, and children since the introduction of Christianity have been burned, tortured, fined, and imprisoned. What has been the effect of this coercion? To make one half of the world fools and the other half hypocrites. He says basically, you say, I don't understand Trinity. I don't understand why God has created these superior people and you are burnt alive. What have we given to the world? And he said that the Bible is corrupted. According to him, it is the most corrupt book on the face of earth. This is what he said. I'm not saying it. He picked up the razor. He went to the copies of the Bible and started cutting it. This is his original Bible. It's in Smithsonian Museum. He will pick up, this is from God, and rest of that is rubbish. So out of these 500, 600 pages, he kept only 26 pages, which talks about the oneness of God, morality, good deeds, and said, this is from Jesus, and rest of that is rubbish. This is Thomas Jefferson, not me. I'm not, disrespecting Bible or in any way or form. I don't want anybody to blame me that I am disrespectful. So you see over there, he will pick up just, wherever it's concept of God, oneness of God. And this is what is called Jeffersonian Bible. After his death, because he did not want these things to be known to anybody, because he did not want to be burnt alive. So now, after his death, it is published, and every visiting president or head of state is given this Bible as a gift. This is the gift of the state of America, and it has got only 26 pages from the Gospels. Nothing but oneness of God, morality. You can see this video, it's on YouTube, Jefferson's Secret Bible, and you will enjoy it. Now, he started believing that Trinity is nonsense. And basically he says the paradox that one is three and three but one is so incomprehensible to human mind that no candid man can say he has any idea of it. And how can he believe what presents no idea? He who thinks he does only deceives himself. He proves also that man, once surrendering his reason, has no remaining guard against absurdities, the most monstrous. This is the founding father of America, the first vice president of America and the third president of what? America. Basically, he says that the message which Jesus communicated, even a child can understand. But this Trinity and what is being portrayed in his name is so nonsensical that nobody can understand it. And nobody have understood it for the past 2,000 years. Okay? Now here, he read the translation of the Quran, which is by what? The British translator of the Quran, George Sale. George Sale was the one who translated the Quran, and Thomas Jefferson had a copy of. In that, the Surah Qul Huwallahu Ahad, Allahu Samad is translated as the one and only God, the uncompounded. Allahu Qul Huwallahu Ahad, Allahu As-Samad, uncompounded. So this is what he uses exactly, that I am glad that this concept of one and only God, the uncompounded, is reviving in America. And this is what he wrote secretly to his nephew. I rejoice that in this blessed country of free inquiry and belief, which has surrendered its creed and conscience to neither kings nor priests, the genuine doctrine of one only God is reviving. And I trust that there is not a young man now living in the United States who will not die a Unitarian. Basically, they said we are founding this country against Britain and against church Christianity on the foundation of Tawheed. And he wished that nobody born in America will not die but a Unitarian. Am I clear? Now, the Connecticut Gazette and the newspaper came out and said that Thomas Jefferson is a secret Muslim. Him and John Adams were close friends. John Adams was the president. He was the vice president. In 1800, he went against John Adams. John Adams came publicly that if you want to choose a Muslim, choose Thomas Jefferson. If you still want some Christianity, choose me. And these are public. Now here, I want you to look at, this is the dome of what? Library of Congress. You go and you look at it in the dome. Here, this is the American picture, which is a virgin, you know. A virgin is coming out of these four fathers. There are 14 civilizations which are depicted. Now, the name is there, Judah, and then under it, it says, what did we get from them? From Greece, okay, from Judah, it says we got religion. From Greece, we got philosophy. Can you see it? Greece and philosophy. From Rome, we got administration. And then comes Islam. Let me go up now, if I can. How can I remove it from here? Okay. From Islam, we got physics. Because science at that time was called what? Physics. So the founding fathers are saying, we got administration from the Romans, from the Greeks, we got the philosophy, but the science, physical sciences, we got from whom? From Islam. From Middle Ages, we got modern languages. From Italy, we got finances. From Germany, we got press. And from England, we got literature. Where did we get science? From Islam. Right now, many of the young people ask this question, what is our contribution to the science? While the founding fathers and the elites of America were saying, now you know, because they were close to the 17th century, and they know that all of these sciences were translated from Arabic, and they taught them, so therefore they had no hesitation in accepting that the science, America got it from whom? From Islam. Look at this one picture. This is in the US Supreme Court. These are the people from whom it is depicted that American law is deriven. Am I clear? So Moses, Charlemagne, for example, and then in the middle you have got it, what? Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with the Quran in his hand and with the sword. Look at Charlemagne has got his sword upward. Prophet Muhammad has got his sword downward. So now the founding fathers and the elite, they believe that Quran and Prophet Muhammad is the main source of American law because he is in the middle of everybody. Am I clear? Now, many of the Americans, when I presented it to them, many of these said, look, even our founding fathers believed that Islam was violent religion. Look at the sword. But look at what the Prophet ﷺ did not have the sword upward. His hand is not in the handle of the sword. Am I clear? It is on the blade. But it is closer to the book, Quran, that he never used the sword except to implement the law. When it comes to implementing the law, he will not differentiate between the king or the royal or anybody. So justice must be applied like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And actually, I did not bring these things. You go to Oxford University, the ayah basically of the Quran of Surah Al-Ma'idah is written over there. When Oxford Law School was begun, the ayah with which it started was Ya ayyuhallazina amanu kunu qawwamina bil qisti shuhada'a lillah. Then this is another painting in the Capitol building. So I gave you Library of Congress, I gave you what? Supreme Court, and now I am giving you from the Capitol building. And actually one time I was at the Capitol building after publishing this book, and I was talking to some of the members of the Congress. We had meeting with President Biden. I'll show you the picture. Gave him the book. He said, never heard of what you are talking about. You are dreaming. And then some of those people who were in that meeting, they started having a lot of discussion with me. So we are walking from White House to, and suddenly I remembered, I said, I took them to this picture. They said, we have been here 30 years, 40 years, I'm a member, I just never paid attention to it. What is this? Now, I want to explain to you. Now, here is Sultan Suleiman al-Kanuni on the left side. You see over here? With the turban. And here is a small picture of Thomas Jefferson with him. Because Thomas Jefferson read so much of Sultan Suleiman al-Kanuni that he is presented as a student of what? Sultan Suleiman al-Kanuni. So these are the people, Maimonides, Moses, Musa alayhi salatu wassalam, who are considered the main sources of American lawmaking. And among them is what? Sultan Suleiman al-Kanuni. And who is his student? Thomas Jefferson. When they looked at it, they said, oh man, we don't know our own history. Now, look at this masjid. Who can tell me which masjid is this? Can anybody tell me? This is another topic, and you will be amazed when I will talk about these things. Who will tell me which masjid is this? Anybody? It is in downtown Chicago. 600 North Wabash Road. This was built at Medina Masjid. Right now, if you go to the doors, this is what is written, La ilaha illallah, la ghaliba illallah, even right now. It's in the middle of downtown. It was changed into Medina Temple, and then right now it's a casino. Look the way, mihrab, all of those things, In every major American city, there used to be a masjid. Actually, when I talk to some of the members of the Congress, and they say, we don't know, you are daydreaming. What are you talking about? I took them to Al-Mas Temple, which is just few meters from the White House. Even you can go on internet and put Al-Mas Temple. Even right now in the dome, it is written La ilaha illallah, La ghaliba illallah. Because they were secretly meeting over there. They became part of Shriners. They became part of, even Freemasons. Because at that time, they took Freemasons as the concept of one God, hiding their identity. But then later on, it was changed into, because the church came very strong against them, and they felt that they will destroy them, So they change it in so many ways. Even in my city, Milwaukee, when I used to live there, I mean, in every city. So I went to this one and I study it left and right. Look at the dome. Quran is written in the middle of the dome. It's called Tripoli Center right now. It used to be Masjid Trablus. And right now it is Tripoli Center. They do dancing, they do conferences, they do all of those kind of stuff. But at the doors and everywhere you will see ayat of the Quran. You see over there at the top, Arabic, فَصَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, or لَا غَالِبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. This is from San Francisco. This is right now the biggest theater. And look at what is written over there. أُدْخُلُوهَا بِسَلَامٍ آمِنِينَ. And what is written here? وَلَا غَالِبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. And even inside. So in New York, in Philadelphia, you would see they started as masjid, then they changed it into temples, and right now most of them are bought by cinema houses. Am I clear? They were not typical Muslims. Those Unitarians, they didn't want to be part of organized church. To them, Islam meant justice, equality. They felt that the church has pushed Christianity into these kind of rituals. So they said, Yarhamukallah, that we don't want to be part of organized Islam. We want to be part of the original teachings of Islam, justice, equality. And that's what they use Islam for. Now, this is the book. You saw it. And here is President Biden. And when I told him, he said, never heard of what you are talking about. This is Tony Evers, the governor of Wisconsin. He was the most educated person I came across. And actually, he shared the book with many of his friends. This is Bilal Urdugan, because I do talk about a lot of, Turkish contribution too. So they were so happy that he suggested it to almost everybody in the world. This is the launch of the book at the British Parliament. So many of the members of the House and the Lord, when they came, they said, we know our history, but then when they took the book, went to the Bodleian Library, checked the references, that's where they invited me second time. And I'm supposed to go one more time because now they are reading and they will be having some serious discussions. Lord Daniel Hannan perhaps is the most educated person in British history. Just go put his name. And with all honesty, he himself was surprised, and with all honesty, he is doing something so special that I feel that he will make a difference. Because he's a man, when he's convinced about something, he says it. Anyhow, Jazakallah khair. I hope I have given you enough. And then, inshallah, we can have question and answers. Let me tell you, this whole process started when, as a young man in the middle school, I was supposed to write a speech about the situation of the young Muslims. Khalid has met my father, and he used to love Allama Iqbal. So he wrote the speech for me, which I memorized. And what was written over there, कभी ए नौजवान मुस्लिम तदब्बर भी किया तूने, वो क्या गर्दूं था तू जिसका है एक टूटा हुआ तारा, तुझे उस कौम ने पाला था आगोशे मोहब्बत में, कुचल डाला था जिसने पाँव में ताजे सरे धारा. And after that is part of शिकवा, जवाब शिकवा. The last was, ये मोती इल्म हिकमत के किताबें अपने आबा की, जो देखे इनको यूरोप में तो दिल होता है सीपा. So that was the whole issue, that what are those books, because Allama Iqbal went to Cambridge and he saw these things. So that was the beginning. And then it culminated into all of this experience. And this is And right now I'm writing the book about John Locke and Islam. I already shared with you, and I'm giving all of the Isaac Newton and Islam, Thomas Jefferson and Islam, and then the final book is Islam and American Revolution. So inshallah, hopefully, just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give me long life so that we can complete it. But this is the gist of what I wanted to share with you. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah, Sheikh. It's amazing how much people can forget of their own history, and the amount of work that needs to be done for us to reclaim it and to understand where we fit in the whole story of humanity. So now we're going to move on to a brief question and answer period. Because I'm not sure if anyone is ready, they might be ready, but I'll ask the first question, and then you guys can hold your questions and then basically call me over, and I'll bring the mic over. So the first question I just want to ask is, I was recently watching your discussion with Ustad Noman Ali Khan on a very similar topic, and Ustad was talking about how designing classroom textbooks, history books with this content would be very important for young Muslims in the West to get a better education and understanding of where they fit. So are you doing any work in this area? Are you working with anyone?
Actually, I think Ustad Noman promised that he would like to do something like that. I am so busy in the research work that I do not have the time to go to that level. Because, right now I've done so much research, I feel like before I die, I want to put those things into writing. But if somebody can help who is good with the young people, and basically I'll be more than happy to help them with that.
Great, that sounds amazing. Does anyone have a question? The famous Dr. Khalid.
Well, I now feel proud that I know you. There's so many things that come to my mind, but I don't know whether it's a relevant question or not. I'm just talking about America. Where did things go wrong then? They were masajid, and then all of a sudden they all disappeared. But what is the intervening period? How do you explain it?
Actually, let me make it very clear that these masajid were not the typical our masajid. They used to be convention centers. They used where they will meet. They will have everything. It was just like a center. So what happens is that when Britain lost, and then they got their ships back, they got their power back, they felt this is our possession and we have lost it. So they put so much pressure upon the founding fathers and actually bought them, bribed them. And they started a war with France, and then the French Revolution. And when in the French Revolution, over 1 million clergy and nobility and kings were killed, that's where the American founding fathers felt that if we continue with this kind of, this clergy, this church, all of these nobilities will be killed, like in France. So at that time, the church and common Christians, they started resisting. You are making it into another Islamic country. You want it to be another France. Am I clear? So this is what is called reawakening. They started this kind of movement with English money, with the church, with Catholics, Protestant, everybody got together. You don't want to lose your Christian identity. So at that time, they changed these. They used to have Masjid Umar, Masjid, it became temple. Then a lot of pressure came again. Am I clear? And when the British became, and actually it's a very long story, when they became power, they mix up the halal and haram. Like look at the slave trade. They went wherever they could go, just get the slaves, sell them. They will make them work 24/7, take the cotton and the sugar, sell it, not pay them even a penny. Am I clear? So when they made money, am I clear, through halal and through haram, this is the time when they did not want to lose America as their colonies. So movement after movement, reawakening, making, that's where even President could not publish his views. He would say, keep it until I die. Am I clear? So this is where this whole, then they started using it. I mean, even right now, they use those caps like Fezi caps, like the Moroccan red caps. I will have to come back and explain to you, even the churches were built like Muslim masjid. Even the synagogues were built like masjid. The president of the country, you will see him in those red Moroccan caps. But then they said, we just want to focus upon social justice. And this is where the transition took place.
Very interesting. Next question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
My name is Rana Khan. About 2 weeks back, I also watched that podcast with the Ustad Mughal and you. And that day, I got the introduction with you, mashallah. Then I missed your lecture in the Al-Huda. At that day, I came to the day.
MashaAllah.
2-3 things that came in my mind. The first thing, what is the vision behind this big size book? Normally, if we want to give the bigger audience, the book size should be smaller. They can read in the train, on the beach, everywhere, they can read it. But this academic, this size, that is the 688 pages. Because when I checked that on the Amazon 600, I can read maximum 1 page and I will sleep. So I'm still thinking, should I buy or not?
That's the situation with the whole Ummah. That's where we are sleeping.
And the second thing is, if we look in this room, almost all are 50 plus, maybe 1 or 2, maybe under 50, otherwise 50 plus. So your audience is totally the 50 plus, and what objective you will get to teach these 60 or 50 plus peoples, while we should teach this history to our youth?
Sure. Actually, when I wrote the book, my audience was not the young or even the Muslims.
Okay.
Because remember, they complain, they say Muslims' scholarship is not at par with us. Actually, some of them complain that they do not even understand the Christian philosophical theology. Sometimes they say, when we talk to them, they are at different wavelength. Sometimes they say you are 300 years behind. So when I was writing this book, first of all, because it was such a revolutionary, that even a common person cannot believe in these things. So you cannot say a word without referencing it. So that's where whatever I have to say, I have to bring it from their authoritative books. So that's where the book became big, number one. Number two, the language is very academic. It's not a language for a common person. I'm glad that you were able to read 1 page and sleep. Many of them, inshallah, will read after the first paragraph. Okay, number two. Number three, this is a different way of, I would say, reaching out to the movers and shakers. Because once those people change, I have seen some of the professors, big name in the industry. Initially, they told me, you are crazy. Actually, one of them even called me intellectual terrorist, who is fabricating stories, rewriting history. And he would not even allow me to speak in the forum. He said, you are not authority. But he was fair enough. I told him, I said, you are my teacher. I studied you. And actually, I quote you. Check it. If you find the references, at least tell the friends that I'm not an intellectual terrorist. And honestly, this person spent a long time, went to Oxford, whatever he went, checked it. He was fair enough to say, I am sorry of not knowing my history. Dr. Shah was genuinely right and I was wrong. But from that time on, this person's lectures incorporate a lot of things. Actually, now he is teaching this part of narrative in his own enlightenment courses. I follow also some of the other professors who are big on John Locke, Isaac Newton. Initially, they just wrote me off. You are not authority, who are you? But now when I listen to some of their lectures, actually on some of those intellectual pages, they are following me. Am I clear? This is what I intended. Right now, the second phase is to make it more popular. I used not to go out, and now you start seeing me. So, and even with Ustad Nouman Ali Khan, one of the reasons was I told him, explained to him, and I asked him, don't wait for me, you keep on explaining, and then I will come and add something to it. So now in this phase, the next phase is to have all of these young people digest it and say in their own way to the Muslim youth. But as I just mentioned to you right now, the summary which I have given you is very understandable. Details you will have to get through the book. Am I clear? But the message is clear. I mean, it's like simple. Now I'm doing it like a storybook. You just saw me going through the history, presenting it like a story. I mean, I go to sometime Jummah or any of the masajid. Nobody even look at the books because the book is so big. After listening to the khutbah, you can't find a copy in that masjid. If you take 500 books, 500 are gone. You take 300, 300 are gone. And most of the time, people don't read it by themselves, but they gift it to their non-Muslim friends. They are giving it to the libraries. So right now, what happens is that people will buy 5, 6, 10 sets. Somebody will order 500 books, and they are sending it all over the state. This is what I feel will make a difference. So, inshallah, the next step is the publisher is behind me for a long time to bring it in the shape of like different topics. But the problem is even those topics, like I'm writing on John Locke. John Locke is considered the father of America. He is considered the intellectual father of America. Everything American goes back to him. Now, when I'm writing it, I cannot just put it in 100 pages because I have to put everything with proper references. Even that book, which I was thinking to make it only 100 pages, is now becoming over 200 and 300 pages. Am I clear? But what I feel is that this is my call to put those things in like the reference book. And inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows me the life, I'll try to summarize it, or at least somebody else will do it. But inshallah, it is on the plate. But I need help. I mean, I need people like Khalid and those people who can do this work to at least summarize. I mean, they have got access to me. They can call me at any time. But I mean, I'll talk to him. Actually, one of the reasons I am visiting is to pick his head. Yeah.
I feel blessed to know you for almost like 30 years now. Alhamdulillah. The more I sit with you, more listening to you is always a blessing, inshallah. The work that you have, mashallah, done is revolutionary. Absolutely. I think someone told you already mentioned that it's a rewriting the history, basically, or rewriting the actual history, basically. So I think your audience is much, much wider and at a very higher level. The government officials, to start with, the universities, the libraries, as you mentioned. And I think more is needed to give this to non-Muslims, as you said. So that is, I think, your main target. Obviously, we need to also know exactly to have a better understanding and more confidence in ourselves in our past history. We've been told whatever history has been written not by Muslims. So unfortunately, and so though we read or listen to whatever has been told to us. But I think this is something a revolutionary work. May Allah bless you for that, inshallah.
Yeah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it. Actually, one time I remember when President Ziaul Haq wanted to Islamize Islam and Islamize knowledge. And Amjad knows these Dr. Hassan Shafi and everybody from Al-Azhar, these are the authorities in Al-Azhar. And Dr. Anis Ahmad or Dr. Faiz, these are the people from the West. And now they are talking about Islamic fine arts. How many conferences used to be taking place over there? They were merging the Western social sciences with Islamic science. That's what he wanted to do. I remember one time, these people were having a lot of difficulties. Hussein Hamid Hassan, Hassan Turabi, Zafar Ishaq Ansari's father, and everybody was going into circles, And he said, at least if we cannot do anything, if we can wake up this giant of this 1.5 billion, you can imagine nobody will be able to stop them. So even though, I'm working on the movers and shakers and intellectual levels, but now you see me talking to the common Muslims, because right now we have been beaten as if we cannot do much. We have not given anything to science. Our countries are such and such. When these Muslims get to know these basics, they become so proud of themselves. They are reclaiming their history. And these young people are becoming so vocal. Actually, one of them, he said that you have given me an atom bomb. One of them said, I have got a bulldozer now. I'm going to bulldoze everybody. This is what is happening. So the Muslim brothers and sisters, what they can do is, if they can just talk to their own friends, to just revive this, what we call the love of this deen, the self-esteem, this identity, I am somebody. My forefathers did it. I can do it. If this generation can give that message to everybody else, the next generation will do it far better. And here, let me tell you one thing. If you look at the data, even till now, this first generation is the one which has built the masjid, which has built the institution. They are still carrying. Our younger generation donates, but not like the first generation. I still have got a lot of respect for the first generation and the second generation. So I really feel that when it comes to sacrifice, this generation is going to make a lot of sacrifice, and the younger generation has got the capability to build upon it and run with it. So inshallah, that is a kind of dialectical struggle which is taking place. And inshallah, with the grace of Allah, I'm expecting a lot of khair.
Okay, I think we have two more questions, and then we have to we have the tea and the snacks which are ready, so there's demand for that. So we'll just take these last two questions.
Thank you. My name is Mahmoud, and was not expecting and didn't have the knowledge about all this that you are presenting, and it's my meeting after almost 34 years. And nice to
After the student life in the Islamic University.
Right. And just my emotions and observation, while I was just listening to you, you are rightly to say that as a ummah, as a Muslim, we are still at dark ages and we are sleeping. But when I was listening to you, it was very difficult to listen and difficult to absorb because what was my past and what we are going through, and what basically I do not want to hear that. That was really pinching me, and that was really curbing me. That why I do not want to hear that thing. That is just my emotion, and the way that overall the ummah, as a Muslim, what we are going through, and if we were that great, what has gone wrong, and where we can come out of this.
Sure.
That's just my observation.
Now, it is going to be very tough pill to digest. And many of you or many of the listeners may not like it. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. These are the days of Allah. He rotates it between the nations. He has got his sunan, his laws.